Hi everyone, my name is Grant Shoults and welcome to Owning Your Workout. Huge thank you to Instacoach for providing this free tutorial for you guys. In this tutorial, I'm going to give you strategies on how to own your workout. Many of the teaching points that I'm going to speak on apply to swimming as well as morning workouts, but not just limited to swimming and morning workouts. The points I'm going to speak on can be applied to many other sports for that matter. And it's a daily approach that I essentially use today and used during my collegiate career. I'm also going to speak on afternoon workouts, so I'm going to cover all the bases, so don't worry about that. In this tutorial, I'm going to cover some physiological topics and I'm going to attempt to break it down so relatively all ages can take it in and understand the information, or at least as much as possible for that matter. So don't worry too much about the naming or the technical pieces that I'm about to speak on. The goal here is to provide additional information behind my own personal decision making while I made use of physiological research to maximize my own performance. I could really make like a 2-hour tutorial on all the cool science and physiology that goes on behind the scenes in the sport of swimming and in athletics, but I'm not going to cover that here. I just want to say thank you for selecting this tutorial, for viewing, and grab a pencil, grab a piece of paper, and I hope you enjoy. For owning your workout, I'm going to break it down into 5 different segments. The night before, waking up and getting ready, getting to your workout, the workout itself, and post-workout. So let's start with the night before. The preparation for your workout doesn't start once you get to the pool or the facility. It also doesn't start when you wake up. Your preparation begins the night before. So the night before, go ahead and just lay out all your clothes and gear that you're going to need for that day. The amount of time that you're going to save in the morning is going to be astronomical because guess what? You're not going to forget anything. So you're simply just going to slip on your clothes, grab your gear, grab a quick snack or bite to eat, and be ready for the morning session or ready for school. And it's all going to be done in an orderly fashion, so you're going to have a great, masterful routine. As for myself, as an age group swimmer, and sadly, even as a high school swimmer, I had a tendency of forgetting my swimsuit at home. So don't be like young me. Take my advice. Lay out your gear and your clothes the night before so it's all ready to go so nothing gets left behind. And since we're on the topic of waking up, let's talk about phones. So when you go to bed and set your alarm, set your phone down away from your bed, okay? Leave it on a charging station, on a table away from your bed. So when you wake up in the morning, you can't just hit snooze a bunch of times so you're late or miss workouts or miss school. I use this today, actually, and I keep it on a stand away from my bed. Another reason why this is a good habit or a good hack is it keeps you from scrolling Instagram and Twitter and messaging people when you're going to bed, and it keeps you from keeping yourself up at night. So take that advice as well before going to bed. If you're really one of those people that has difficulty waking up in the morning, or you're a parent or a sibling of someone that is, what I suggest for you is getting them or getting yourself a Pavlov shock alarm. And I was the worst at waking up in the morning, so my family got me one. Great present, by the way. And what it does is it's essentially an alarm system that if you don't wake up to the beeps and the vibrations, it shocks you. And the reason why I'm putting it on and showing you is because it's not like a lethal shock, and it's not the shock collar that you put on the dog that the dog whines and reacts to. It's a pretty subtle shock, but it's enough to wake you up. I'll do it right now. I'm alive. So what this allowed me to do is it allowed me to wake up and actually react to my alarm and program me. It actually only shocked me about 2 times in the 3 years that I used it. And just the, threat of the shock was enough to get me up and out of bed. Now that we've covered what to do the night before, let's begin the next section, waking up and getting ready. This portion is truthfully going to be a bit more technical, so do your best to pay attention. If you have to go back and watch it a time or two, that's totally cool. So the first point here is eat your breakfast. Before continuing, I think I should make a small disclaimer here. This is all information that I use as an athlete and as someone on a rigid training schedule. If you're not an athlete, but rather a more occasional fitness person, or just getting into the sport or trying to shed some fat, feel free to spread this information to those you think might find it helpful. And the reason I'm saying that is because our bodies perform at different metabolic rates given the activity load that our body's under. So if you want to burn more fat and are less focused on building muscle or building endurance, you might want to follow a different regimen. There's plenty of resources online as well as nutritionists available, so feel free to optimize whatever level you're currently in. Okay, so let's get back to your breakfast, right? For the days that you have morning workouts or morning cardio, the straightforward thought here is your body needs fuel to burn, right? And food is fuel. If you last ate at 7 p.m. and your workout is at 7 a.m. to 7:30 a.m., you will have fasted for what is essentially 12 hours. And by the way, 8 hours without eating is considered fasting. So if you're trying to cut down on fat deposits in fasting your body, then working out on an empty stomach is one of the ways you can try to shed it. There's a bunch of different ways. But if you're trying to maximize your daily and end of season performance with the goal of building muscle and aerobic fitness, you're putting your body at a huge disadvantage by not eating before your workout. So let me break it down. There exists 3 different energy production systems that we use during our workouts. Whether you're max deadlifting, you're sprinting, or you're in an endurance race or practice, there are 3 main energy systems. And before I go into it, I just wanted to reiterate that don't get caught up in the naming or the real science behind any of it. I'm just giving it as a supplement here, okay? So the first one is the ATP PC system. And if you're max deadlifting or max sprinting for a period of less than 6 seconds, this is the anaerobic system you're going to use. And the term anaerobic essentially means without oxygen. So short bursts of strength and speed that last less than 6 seconds. The second system that we're going to talk about is the anaerobic glycolytic system. So once again, this system also does not need oxygen. So this system is for events that range from 1 to 3 minutes or so. And you could say it's like the 100 freestyle to the 200 freestyle and the 400 meter sprint and the 800 meter sprint in athletics. So you might also recognize the name of this system as the lactic acid system or the lactate system. And this lactic acid system is able to meet the large demands of energy required for intense activity, but it is a rather inefficient system. So you get a byproduct of lactate. So when I say lactate, many of you have probably said things at the end of workouts or strenuous activity, oh, my legs are on fire, it's really burning. So this is kind of what we're talking about here. It's true that there's an accumulation of lactic acid building up, but the lactic acid is actually an inflammation indicator for your body to repair microtorn muscle fibers. But what you're really feeling is the conditions and the environment in your muscles becoming more acidic. You're getting more hydrogen ions, and it's also getting warmer in your muscles. And the combination of the warmth and the combination of the hydrogen ions and acidity is that combination that really makes this burning sensation. So all of that is just facts, but what I really want you to focus on for the anaerobic glycolytic system is that this system is fueled by stored carbohydrates. So the carbohydrates you eat and store in the form of glycogen. And we're going to come back to glycogen in the next system. The third and final system that we're going to talk about here is the aerobic system. This is also known as the oxygen system. We use this system for more prolonged endurance-based activities such as swimming, cardio workouts, or soccer scrimmages. It's more of a slower, more prolonged system, obviously, with it being endurance-based. And it is also much more efficient, roughly 15 times more efficient than the anaerobic lactate system that we just talked about. And here, there's a relatively endless supply of energy. And in this system, it uses many different energy pathways, with one of them being, as mentioned before, in the anaerobic lactate system, is glycogen, which is the main source for strenuous endurance workouts. Fuel in the aerobic system is also stored in cells, blood, liver, fat, and muscle. So it really uses a bunch of pathways, with the main source for strenuous activity being glycogen. In reality, when working out, and depending on the activity, we use all three of these energy systems to some degree. But what you need to understand is that after 2 minutes of maximal activity, there's a shift. There's a shift in your body from using the anaerobic energy system, such as the ATP, PC system, and the anaerobic lactic acid system, and a shift towards the aerobic processes of the oxygen system. The energy or fuel that your body uses for endurance-based workouts and activities, like I said before, is stored in your muscles as well as your liver in the form of glycogen. And this is a form of stored carbohydrate, as mentioned before. So when you're working out, glycogen is essentially broken down and sent throughout your bloodstream and delivered to your cells as fuel. Those familiar with human physiology know it's a little bit more complex than that, but for simplicity, let's just keep it there. So now that you know all three of the fuel systems that we're going to talk about and how your body uses those, let's focus on endurance-based activities. And let's talk about when your breakfast comes into play. In a heavy endurance-based workout, you're going to burn through the majority of your stored carbohydrates within about an hour if you haven't eaten breakfast. This leads to your body burning more fat and decreased performance at this maintained intensity. Eating food containing carbohydrates before a workout is absolutely fundamental for extending your body's ability to use carbohydrates and glycogen as energy, and delaying this term that we call bonking. In swimming and running, we call bonking the term for the depletion of glycogen stores in what the athlete describes as fatigue or loss of energy. And for me personally, I was a serial bonker all the way into college, and it wasn't until I began eating breakfast regularly with a focus on carbohydrates before workouts that I was able to prevent my serial bonking. Mind you, it takes about 48 hours or so for your body to fully replenish these glycogen stores. Therefore, finding time in the morning to eat and have these morning meals isn't just vital for the morning practice or even doubles or the afternoon practice. It's important for the entirety of your week's worth of practices, because your glycogen stores are just going to plummet if you're not eating your morning meals. If you want to learn more about which foods to eat and which foods to avoid, I'm going to talk a little bit about it in one of the following sections, but feel free to scan the internet for resources. I'm also not a nutritionist here, so feel free to expand your knowledge in that realm. Awesome. So now let's talk about the timing of when to eat your breakfast before morning workouts. It's important to leave enough time for your body to digest food, so you're going to want to aim for more than 30 minutes before your workout. Okay, why 30 minutes? It seems like a kind of random number, right? Well, it takes time for your body to break down and process food. There's different studies out there that talk about when it's best to eat before practice or morning workouts, and some say more than 30 minutes to 4 hours. For me personally, I stuck to 30 minutes to an hour and a half before all of my workouts, for that matter. And that's just information that I learned in exercise physiology and nutrition at Stanford. Optimally, you're going to want to aim for an hour and a half before your morning workouts rather than 30 minutes. 30 minutes can sometimes be a little bit too close, but between balancing school and sleep as an athlete, you got to do what you got to do. So oftentimes I aim for like 45 minutes. If you've ever had the experience of eating too close to practice time or even eating too much prior to practice, you've probably felt bloated or had some cramps, or even you might have been nauseous. And this is the result of your meal essentially churning in your stomach and in your digestive system, waiting for your practice to be over until it can finally fully digest. The key takeaway here is if you eat a significant meal within 30 minutes of practice time, you're essentially going to have to carry this meal throughout the entirety of your practice. And you're not going to gain the optimal energy that you would have gained if you ate this meal 30 minutes or longer before your workout. Since we're on the topic of digestion, I thought that this is a fantastic opportunity to talk about some more physiology. I know you're going to love this. So let's dive even deeper. So let's say you eat a meal within 30 minutes of practice. Let's say a Philly cheesesteak, really juicy. Well, the blood in your circulation is going to head to your digestive system and away from your general circulation. This general circulation is responsible for supplying your body, such as your muscles, with blood. Since this blood carries nutrients, such as oxygen, eating less than 30 minutes before your workout is essentially driving oxygen away from your muscles. And what does this do? This is going to decrease your overall performance. So by eating less than 30 minutes, you are essentially pulling oxygen away from your system, from your general circulation, and decreasing your performance and ultimately your endurance. All right, so enough of the physiology. Let's talk about what to eat. So carbs are your friend here. You're going to want to have carbs before your morning workout for reasons like we mentioned before, for replenishing your glycogen, giving you increased energy. They're most easily broken down compared to proteins and lipids, also known as fats. Most nutritionists have told my team and myself that you're going to want to be consuming veggies, cereals, fruits, or grain. I'm sure you've heard this before, but whole foods are your friend. For me personally, what I would grab a banana or pretzels, granola bar, bagel, apple. Some of my teammates would grab a bowl of oatmeal, a honey stinger waffle, maybe some toast. I personally don't have veggies in the morning, but that also works if you're into veggies in the morning. Larger portions are also not going to be your friend here. They're a little bit harder to digest. You're going to take a little bit more time, which makes sense. So you're going to want to stick to a little bit smaller portions. For me, I would have just a apple and a granola bar in the morning. And for me, I wasn't super full, but it was enough that I was totally good to work through the practice and go to a real morning meal after. All right, so that's cool and all, but what about for those listening that don't have morning workouts, that just have afternoon workouts? Well, the good news here is that the timing of your meals and what's best to eat is pretty much the same. The only difference here is now you can maximize eating an hour and a half rather than 30 minutes before your workouts. Heck, you can even aim for 2 hours if you want. And here you can actually have larger portions since your body is going to have time to digest. So I'm not going to dive into what you should eat daily as an athlete or as a swimmer because it depends on a whole lot of things. It depends on weight, gender, activity, intensity. And I'm also not a nutritionist, as I said, but I'm going to share a piece of advice that was given to me by one of my age group coaches in the past, and I did my best to follow his advice. The advice here was the Honda Civics and Ferraris use different qualities of fuel. Honda Civics use low performance or regular, and Ferraris use high performance. If you're trying to go fast like a Ferrari, you can't fuel your body with low performance fuel that's meant for a Civic. And to me, what this meant was I shouldn't be eating Doritos every meal, and I was extremely sad. So maximize your intake of whole foods, such as fruits, veg, nuts, as mentioned before, and limit the processed foods such as Doritos, donuts, and burgers. All right, so that was the end of waking up and getting ready. I promise you that was the longest session that we're going to talk about here. The next session that we're going to talk about is getting to the workout, and this is actually the shortest section. So the premise here for getting to your workout is if you're not 10 minutes early, you're late. And this was a recent discovery of mine that was taught to me by my most recent coach, Dan Schemmel. I thought it was a fantastic piece of advice. If you're showing up less than 10 minutes before practice, you're probably not prepared. You're not going to have time to change and stretch and mentally prepare for the physical workout that you're going to endure. Showing up to 10 minutes is also going to result in an unprepared state for fitness. It might lead to injury because you're not activated. You haven't done your stretches and band work. You might be unprepared because you're rushing around. My strategy personally was to take this advice of, you want to be 10 minutes there before your practice. I shot for 15 minutes before practice, and this allowed me ample time to really take my time to stretch and prepare. And I had an activating and stretch routine that I would do every single day because I had really bad shoulders that I had operated on. So this took about 5 minutes or so. It took another 5 minutes to change. And what do you know? I'm on the pool deck 5 minutes before workout. I'm ready to go with time to spare. And this leads us into the fourth segment of this tutorial, during practice. Now that you're all ready to go, you got your cap and goggles on, you can be the first one to jump in or the first one ready for your workout. I'm going to speak more on leadership and potentially another video, but for now I want you to focus on setting the precedent. By jumping in or being in the first group that's ready to go, you're already taking charge of your workout from the first second of practice. You're taking charge despite it being early in the morning or cold, or while others are potentially complaining about those two things. Or maybe it's an afternoon workout and the group is really struggling to start on time for daily sessions. Don't be afraid to be the spark plug. Be the spark plug that ignites the workout. By jumping in the water first or being in the first group that's ready, you're going to eventually prompt others to join and hop in, allowing you to lead the way, setting a great trend for the right direction that you want to have practice go. To many, this may seem as a minuscule point or even unimportant, but there's something to consider in this. All of the greats find value in the small details, but the greats wouldn't call it small. It wouldn't be a proper segment in this tutorial if we didn't talk about carbohydrates, right? So yes, for endurance-based training, you're going to want to have some carbohydrate at some point during the workout. If your training is endurance-based and longer than 90 minutes, you're going to want to have some form, whether in the form of sports drinks, sports gels, bananas, or sports bars. You still want to have, your breakfast or your meal more than 30 minutes beforehand, but you can supplement the workout with a little carbohydrate in the middle. If you do go for the solid version of carbs, such as a sports bar, you're going to want to have some water along with it as well. So let's talk about hydration. Whether you believe it or not, you actually do sweat in the water. And, if you're on land, it's pretty clear that you also sweat. Estimates range that you want to have between 14 to 27 ounces, which is like 2 to 3 cups of water per practice. It also depends on sex and age and intensity. So let's just call it a 24-ounce hydro flask. You want to have something like this during your workout, right? So what you want to do is you want to keep track of how much you drink during practice. And it's great having a 24-ounce bottle of water because you can, see how much you've drinking thus far. And you don't want to just be hydrating after the fact and replenishing and restoring your water then. You want to do it during the workout. So every 15 minutes or so, between sets or after sets, take a good swig of water. A good rule of thumb here is your body is 72% water, and it would like to stay that way. The best way to judge if you're hydrated or not is when you go to the toilet and you go number one, you want to avoid a dark yellow, go for the clear. So that's the easiest way to put it. All right. So enough about carbohydrates and hydrating, we get it. So now let's talk about the next part of the workout. Let's talk about encouragement. Let's be honest, morning practice, it can be a drag. And afternoon practice can, be exhausting as well, whether you're tired from the day, you have tons of schoolwork and homework, or if you're dealing with issues outside of the pool. If everyone is in the same sort of mood, it can make it even more of a drag. But if you're able to turn things around by keeping the rest of your lane, group, or team engaged, or even giving out like knuckles or, high fives and good jobs around you, brutal practices will be less of a drag and time goes by quicker. And most importantly, at least in the world of swimming, a happy swimmer is a fast swimmer. So here's some techniques that I use during my swimming career. The first is the one set, one compliment technique. For every set you do, find someone around you and tell them something that they're doing well. Yo, hey D-Roy, nice work on that pull set. Yo, Johnny, I saw you were working those underwaters on round 3. Keep it up, dude. A little goes a long way, and by throwing around and dishing out these compliments, you're gonna in turn create a chain reaction that will inspire others to do the same. And maybe you might even receive some compliments back to yourself, and maybe that will make you feel good and improve your experience and workout. The next technique is pretty self-explanatory, but dish out some knuckles as well. When finishing a tough set and you're out of breath and can't talk, this is a perfect time to just be like, yo, dude, nice job on that, but not say anything, obviously. So the next technique that we have is share a joke. And whether you're with your lane, your coach, share something funny to make the group laugh. Okay, maybe it's early in the morning and it might be difficult, so you might have to read the room, but I was known for, being a jokester on the team, and I was quite talkative on the wall. And I found that sharing jokes and sharing laughs was the best way to lighten the mood. So for me, that was my favorite technique. And with that, we're at our 5th and final section of the tutorial, post-workout. What you really want to know here is don't skip your warm down. You really want to flush the byproducts that we talked about earlier when we talked about aerobic exercise. You have lactic acid and things like hydrogen ions. You really want to flush these from your muscles when you're warming down. So if you had a hard practice, and even if you don't feel like warming down, you need to do it. It's all the more reason to hold yourself to a high standard and cool down your body. Trust me, your body's going to thank you later. The length of warm down varies, but on tough days for me, I would like to go 200 or so. On the really, really tough days, I'd go about 500, but I never went less than 200 meters. And on the way out, you want to say thank you to your coach. In high school and much of college, I had the habit of shaking the coach's hand on my way out the door. Look them in the eyes and say thank you for the session. A little effort here goes a long way, and your coaches dedicate an extreme amount of time into your workout, season planning, and even your happiness. So make sure you say thank you on your way out the door. The other thing that you want to do immediately after practice is you want to get some food, and you also want to hydrate. At this point, your body is primed for repair and rebuilding directly after the workout's finished, even up to 2 hours after the workout is finished. But you really want to get these nutrients in as quickly as possible. So your body is in a heightened state for uptaking things like protein and carbohydrates that we talked about before, and replacing and rebuilding these glycogen stores. So especially if you have doubles, it's all the more important to drink and eat following workout. For protein, directly after practice, I relied on low-fat chocolate milk, and it's a fantastic option because it has slow-acting and fast-acting proteins that you can uptake relatively quickly. It also contains fluids, so you're kind of knocking out the hydration piece a little bit. You still need some water, but it has important nutrients and electrolytes, which are lost as sweat when you work out, so it's a fantastic option. If you're a little bit older and you're into whey protein, this is also, the perfect time to take some whey protein. Whey protein is known for being in protein powders, and is actually something that I use instead of chocolate milk currently. For carbs, it's the same thing as we talked about before. You can throw some pretzels, some fruit into your bag before practice, and you're all set to go. You can also throw in a peanut butter sandwich if you've made that prior. That's a fantastic option for not just carbohydrates, but you also have the peanut butter, which actually has some protein. So you kill 2 birds with 1 stone right there. All right, so that's it. I know I covered a lot of points in this tutorial, so I want to have a quick recap so we can go over all the most important things. So for owning your workout, it can be broken down into 5 different segments: the night before, waking up and getting ready, getting to the workout itself, and post-workout. The night before, have everything laid out and ready, and make sure you set your alarm somewhere away from your bed. For waking up and getting ready, make sure you eat your breakfast 30 minutes to an hour and a half before your morning workout, or even longer if it's for afternoon. 2/3 of your energy systems use some form of stored carbohydrate in the form of glycogen. So eating your breakfast provides more fuel for your workout and prevents bonking. The best fuel that you can give your body is whole foods like fruit and veg and even grain. For getting to the workout, if you ain't 10 minutes early, you're late. So make sure you have time to activate your body and stretch. Develop a personal routine that you enjoy yourself. During practice, be the first one in the water and be the first one ready. Hydrate by taking constant sips during the workout, and if it's a long workout that lasts longer than 90 minutes, take some kind of carb with water. Also, make sure to encourage others during your practice and maintain a form of positive spirit. You can use the one set, one compliment technique. You can even give knuckles, high fives, or give out jokes. For post-workout, simply do your warm down. Thank your coach on your way out the door and make sure that you're able to grab a quick snack to eat in the form of carb or protein, and make sure that you also hydrate. With all the tools that you now have in your arsenal from this tutorial, you're definitely on track to owning your workout. If you want to book an online session with me, feel free to do so in the Select a Session tab on Instacoach. I've gotten the opportunity to speak to many clubs and athletes and parents, for that matter, during my time as an athlete and even as a retired athlete. I'm very excited to continue doing so moving forward with Instacoach. So thank you again for listening to this tutorial, and I look forward to potentially talking to you soon.